Hey everybody, welcome to the Parkinson's Warrior podcast. I am your host, Dr. Michael Hyland, and I have today a special guest with me. Today I have jjohnson from the American Parkinson's Disease Association, Oklahoma Chapter, and I'm really excited that she came to be with us today. Before we get started and introduce Jenny, I wanted to put in a quick plug for our Patreon co-producership. If you haven't yet, please consider signing up for our Patreon membership at I can't even talk this morning. Patreon.com/PDWarriors, and for as little as the cost of a cup of coffee per month, you can become a co-producer of the show, help our efforts to move forward, and to get access to exclusive content, to interaction on a personal basis with your host, as well as inside information on future topics, and you get to contribute to future topics as well, in terms of what you would like to hear about as a person with Parkinson's or a loved one of a person with Parkinson's. And without further ado, I want to introduce Jenny Johnson. And Jenny, thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me. That sounds like some exciting things you have going on, so I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thank you. It's we just have that little membership that just kind of helps support the show, and we've got a couple co-producers that signed on a couple weeks ago, so hopefully we'll have some more come on. That just helps our efforts. So Jenny, I wanted to, it's no secret, you and I have known each other for probably about close to 3 years now, as we're both local in Oklahoma. But I wanted the audience to kind of know a little bit more about you personally before we get into more of American Parkinson's Disease Association and what they do for people with Parkinson's all over the country and even other parts of the world too. So tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your background professionally and what led you into working as an employee for American Parkinson's Disease Association.
Well, that's a kind of a crazy story, but I always love sharing it.
I love crazy stories.
Well, so basically, let's see, where should I start? When I went to college and I ended up going to school to be what was called a recreation therapist. And my dad loved to say things like, my daughter went to college to learn to play games. So that was always his phrase to all his friends, like, great, Dad, thanks. And it does sound like that, so I get it. But basically what a recreation therapist does is working with physical therapists like yourself, occupational and speech therapy, excuse me, and we work together with them in a rehab setting is one of the ways. Recreation therapists do a lot of different things, but this is the direction that I took. And we work in a rehab setting to help individuals who have had chronic illness or have had severe injuries and things like that to basically get back home and living their lives. So they might have had a spinal cord injury, a brain injury, stroke, any of those kinds of things can actually cause individuals to go into rehab. And PT would work with them on ambulation, OT would work with them on, and of course, a lot of other things. PT does a lot. Occupational therapy, a lot of people are confused by that, and that's basically helping them with activities of daily living, like dressing, bathing, grooming, those kind of things. Speech therapy would work on swallow as well as speech. So that helps people with Parkinson's to know that, because we know that they have swallow problems. And we as recreation therapists would take all of that, put it together and put it to a practical use. That was the easiest way I could explain it. And so we might take them out and teach them that, yes, you can bolt from a wheelchair. Or yes, even if you have Parkinson's and your balance is a little off, we can help you to still continue to whatever activity it was you enjoyed doing. We also will take games and activities and help people work on cognition. So, for example, if somebody's had a stroke, let's say, and they're having difficulty with sequencing numbers or anything like that, we would help them with that. So, recreation therapy is my background. I had been living in Maryland for 6.5 years and was coming back to Oklahoma. So, I went to apply for a job here in Tulsa at Hillcrest and was working there for, I can't even remember how long, probably 6 to 8 months, something like that. And working as a rehab therapist. And basically my they had some positions come available, and they were going to be closing the long-term acute care facility. So I had the opportunity arise, and I actually went and applied for this position as well as another position on the floor. And they offered me this position, and I was grateful because 6 months later they laid off all the rec therapists in the hospital, and I still had a job, and that was 13 years ago. So I've been doing this now for about 13 years. I came into the job, I thought I knew a lot about Parkinson's because I did my internship under a neurologist who worked with Parkinson's patients. My husband's grandmother had Parkinson's, so we took her to that same neurologist, who we found out later she thought had actually diagnosed her. It was kind of funny when that happened because the doctor left the room. She said, "I think she's the one that diagnosed me." So we didn't know because we were her care providers, and she had Parkinson's. And so I thought I knew a lot, and I found out I didn't know anything. So I have learned so much. I will tell anybody and everybody that I do not know it all, but I will do my very best to help you find the answers. And so I came to work for APDA, and of course that role has morphed, and I was the coordinator at the time, and I am now the executive director here in Oklahoma. So kind of a crazy story, but yeah, that's how I got here. And I love what I do. I love working with Parkinson's patients. I have the best population in the world to work with. They are wonderful people and always so gracious and grateful and interested in learning, and I just love that.
I wholeheartedly agree with the population. It's a very, I'd say, extremely rewarding population to work with.
Absolutely.
And it does take a special place in your heart, and I love to do it, but they are wonderful people. And that's you, dear listener. So that's great about your background. I think that's a very interesting history and kind of like what led you into the position. And it's interesting what you said about recreational therapy, because it is kind of I don't want to say a dying art, but it's something that is rarely seen nowadays. And I think it really is we're not better for it, in my opinion, but
I agree. That's so important. Just because you can dress yourself, bathe yourself, walk, do all those things, talk. Now, what are you going to do with it? Because if you don't know how to get in your wheelchair, you don't know how to, maybe you can get into the wheelchair, but how do you get around in the community? We actually will take them out into the community. We would work on curb cuts and ramps and help them to manage those things, because in PT, you learn how to get around in the chair, but they don't always take you to a ramp and say, this is how you go up a ramp. And if you can't do it forwards, you do it backwards. And this is how you safely do that. And those are the things that we would do, help them transfer to the car. Can you transfer out now that you're where you want to be? We did a lot of bowling, though, because we had a bowling alley close to the hospital. So.
That's great. Well, and it also honestly doesn't necessarily help with the participation limitations to cut out the recreational therapy. But, just because, like you said, just because you get the objective part better doesn't mean it translates into recreation or everyday life. So I appreciate that perspective. I digress. But I think that's very interesting, that background, because I honestly have, in my career, which is relatively short, but in my 10 years as a practicing physical therapist, I have not met more than probably a couple of our recreational therapists. I almost said RT, that's respiratory therapist.
We had to take the opposite stance. But yeah, it is such a rewarding population to work with. And I just so enjoy what I do. And I enjoy working with these people because, again, they are so, it's just so rewarding to see them go from being depressed in their homes. They may not know exactly what to do in their homes, but yeah, and that's the other thing I wanted to mention a minute ago. And again, not to go back to the old topic, but I think it's important to say that for recreation therapists, especially, it seems like we're getting all the functioning things. We have the psychological things and the counselors and social workers that can help people with the psychological part of having an injury. And we just skip over this is how you go back to having fun and being, alive in the real world. And so that's something that I think is really important. And the other thing I did kind of skip over in my history too, that I wanted to mention, is that all the things that I've done in the past, working in this field, has just really made me appreciate so much more my life. I feel like, but I have worked so hard with just working with Parkinson's patients and seeing them improve so much, and they emotionally have such a hard time and struggle in their lives.
Mhm.
And I think it's just so important that, going back to what you do, is, being socially there for them to be able to help and support them. And that's the part that I love about this job, and I would never go back. I came into this job, again, thinking that I knew nothing, and I have learned so much, even just from the population itself, about this disease.
Well, I agree. I can't disagree that that's a very crucial role in navigating life as a person with Parkinson's, and having somebody that can be an advocate like that. So going to American Parkinson's Disease Association, APDA, the motto or the mission, I guess it would be the motto, would be strength and optimism, hope and progress. And I was going to just throw out an open-ended question and say, what has that meant to you in the work that you've done, or the work that you see APDA doing?
So when I originally came, we had a different motto, and I'm so excited we changed to this, because I think optimism is so important.
Absolutely.
Again, going back to this population, you do get strength from that, and being optimistic is so important in just life in general for all of us, but especially for people with Parkinson's, because they do so much struggle with the emotional side of that. And a lot of people, I tell this to a lot of my clients, is a lot of them, say, I feel depressed, I feel down, I'm not crazy. I get that a lot. And it's like, no, you're not crazy. And I want people to, understand that the part of Parkinson's that causes depression is not because not only because you have a chronic illness. Because a lot of people feel it's just because I have a chronic illness that I feel this way. It's not only because you have a chronic illness, but it's also because there's a chemically related issue, the serotonin, the dopamine in the brain, that's reduced as a result. And that dopamine is like when your phone rings and you go, oh my gosh, who sent me a message? I got to see what that is. And you get kind of this little high for just a second. And when that's not there, and you're just constantly flat or even down, that's what makes it so hard for people with Parkinson's. So don't think that there's anything wrong other than there's a chemical issue. And if you need to, then that's where they're being offered medication, and they say, I'm not crazy. No, you're not crazy, but you may need a little bit of that chemical to help boost you so that you can live a good quality of life. And quality of life is everything. I mean, not just important, it's everything. If you don't have that, what do you have? So yeah, so that's the optimism, hope, and progress, is that APDA does research. We have researchers all over the country. In fact, here in Oklahoma, we have one that we work directly with, and we'll talk a little bit later about our education forum. We've actually changed the name to Parkinson's Education Forum and Research Event, because we're going to be bringing researchers in, one, a local doctor here in town, and then the researcher we've been connected with in Texas, to talk about the research that they're doing to give people that hope. It was funny because when I spoke to the researcher and was talking to him about it, and his impression was that we would have doctors and different physicians and PTs and things like that there. He was like, I'd really like to wait till I have more work done. And I said, no, we're talking to the patients and to the caregivers. Just to know that you're working is hope for them. I mean, it moves them like you would not believe. I've taken Parkinson's patients to large conferences before and seen them walk through the areas where the researchers were showing their work. And she just cried, because she said, it's just so good to know there are people out there trying to help us.
That means a lot. Yeah. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Just to hear that reaction from somebody that has been able to witness that. That kind of leads into my next question. Because
I knew that. No, I'm kidding.
Of course.
None of these are planned. I don't know what the questions are. So.
You have the script. No. Anyway, what I was going to say is about the reason I say that leads into my next question is because you mentioned the education forum, and that's something that's one thing that can happen on a local level with APDA chapters, or does happen. In addition to that, I mean, support groups is something else that APDA can help connect people with, and which I can't speak more highly of support groups if you have Parkinson's disease or any other condition that you need support with. But what other resources would you say would be, I mean, there's probably too many to name, but I mean, what would you say would be the chief resources available through APDA that people should look into or research?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, like I mentioned, we do have researchers across the country that are working. So I like to always bring that up. So if you're looking to make a donation, just to know that there are research, that this is helping research. APDA, and I'm sorry, I got a tear there. APDA works really hard to make sure that we've been a part of every major breakthrough in Parkinson's for many years. And APDA's work is in a different level. We actually work more at a micro level. So we're not the ones saying, okay, now let's take this to the human studies or anything like that. Typically, that's not where we are. We are looking at the microbiological level. And so just to give people an idea, we're looking at those cells, and we're looking at the genes and those kind of things to try to find a cure in that respect. So APDA works hard on that, and that's just one piece. APDA wants to be the be-all, end-all. We want you to come to us because we have everything that you need in one place, one-stop shop. And so we do have the support groups, as you mentioned. We have some wonderful support groups. Of course, that's been dampened a little bit just because of COVID, and we've had to stop doing that. So what we decided to do is we went online. And so we actually have support groups for caregivers and for people with Parkinson's that meet every 2 weeks. I shouldn't say every 2 weeks, every second and fourth Thursday. So if there's 5 in a month, then it might go an extra week. So it's not every other week necessarily. But the second and fourth Thursday of the month, we have those on via Zoom. We have a great group. We have a wonderful facilitator who facilitates those groups. And we have people from all over the country and all over the world that attend that. Sometimes we've actually had people, I'm trying to think, in Africa, I believe. And I mean, we've just had them, I can't even remember now, but from all over the country too. We have somebody that regularly attends from Oregon. We have somebody in Pennsylvania right now that's attending. We have people here in Tulsa and Oklahoma that come. So anybody's welcome to attend that. You can just go to our website, and we are the APDA Parkinson, no S on the end, .org. And then if you just do /OK, you can go on there and find our calendar, and on there is the link to register so you can attend. We also encourage people to go ahead and send in your name, address, phone number, and email to us. We'll get you on our mailing list. And we'll also, if you're on Facebook, we do have a chat on Messenger that we will remind you when those meetings are happening. We'll let you know that those meetings are happening. So Parkinson support groups is definitely important, especially during these times. So that's why I really stress those. APDA also has a ton of resources online. We have our manual that is our Parkinson's handbook that gives you basic information about Parkinson's. We try to keep that up to date. It's very up to date right now. So definitely you can go on there. You can order one to have it shipped to you. And you can do it. You can just go on and put in your information, and they'll send it right to you. You can also go online and read it there if you'd like. You can go to our OK, the /OK website. We have them right there, or you can go to our national website as well. And you can read online. We have the handbook. We have one for exercise. We have information about speech and swallowing. And then we also have supplements is what we call them. And they're kind of those trifolds that you see when you go to a health fair or something. And they'll talk about everything from constipation, anxiety, depression, all kinds of different things, what to do if you have to go to the hospital, because that can be traumatic for people with Parkinson's. Because as we all know, when you've seen one person with Parkinson's, you've seen one person with Parkinson's. Everybody's different. And when you go to the ER, those doctors don't necessarily know a ton about Parkinson's. They know a little bit about everything because they're dealing with all kinds of diseases. So it's taking nothing away from them. They're extremely intelligent, but they can't know everything about one disease. And so that is a bit of a daunting situation. So we have a brochure about that. So there's lots of resources there. The other thing is we have centers like myself all across the country that can provide information to you as well. And so you can call those centers. If you need to find out where your center is, you can either go to our website or, again, contact me, you can contact our office is 918-747-3747, or you can email me at apdaok@apdaparkinson.org. And if you email us, we can get you in touch with your local center, or we can help you here. I have my own style in the fact, and I don't know, everybody has their own style. I don't know exactly how they do it. Maybe we're all doing it the same. I just don't know. But they can call. And I basically like to take a history and find out kind of when you were diagnosed, what are your symptoms right now? What are you struggling with? And I take down all your information, and then I just kind of see what information I can give you. If you say, my loved one is having swallowing problems, or my husband's drooling a lot, well, that can be related to swallowing problems. So we talk about, are they choking? Are they coughing? And then we'll go that direction and say, okay, there's resources out there like LSVT that can help with swallow, and try to point them in that direction. So I really try to specialize it to the person. So that's another way they can call and get help and resources. We try to point them in resources in the community. For example, if somebody calls me and says, need help with my taxes, is there somebody that does help with that? I will send them to a local senior organization that helps with that. So those are just, I mean, I could go on and on. There's lots of resources that we can provide, but those are some of the big ones that I think are really important.
That's great. I mean, and with all of those potential resources available, and as I've worked with people with Parkinson's and helped to try to educate people, I've realized how vast honestly, it's ironic because so many people have multitude of questions about their disease and about resources, and there's a vast amount of information available, but it's difficult to digest. But having that in mind, where would you say would be the best place to start? Especially, like you mentioned, reaching out to, like, for example, it could be another executive director or another person, another state, but let's say it's you in this case. Would you recommend that reaching out to that local person first would be the best way to start, and just kind of get, like what you said, they asked a specific question and you could help give them specific answers and resources. So
right.
I don't know if that's the best place to start, but where would you say somebody should start if they're just trying to find out more, especially if they're newly diagnosed?
The newly diagnosed, that's an interesting one, because a lot of people, they're newly diagnosed. The doctor says, here's a pill, come back in 6 months, come back in a year. And they have all these questions. I have sadly had people call me and say, I just got diagnosed with Parkinson's. How long do I have? And I was like, what do you mean? How long do you have? It's like, you have a full life to live. It's not going to kill you, but it's going to be challenging. So we can help you with that. And so sadly, that happens a lot. And people just don't know what they don't know. And I would hate for somebody not to call me shortly after they were diagnosed, especially if they didn't get all the details or didn't know, and live 5 years of their life thinking they're going to die and they don't know when. I mean, because of this disease. So my suggestion is call. As soon as you find out you've been diagnosed with Parkinson's, again, call me, because I tell people, call me when you don't know what you don't know. And that is, I don't know what I need. I think I need something, but I don't know what it is. So just call me when you don't know what you don't know. We'll talk it through. And that's where I go through that case, just kind of take their case information, look over that information, and see what the best resources is for that person at the time. I try not to overwhelm them. I can talk. My son can talk. I passed it on in the family, but I try really hard not to overwhelm them. I'll give them a lot, but I'll say, let's stop here. And then when you're ready for more, you give me a call back and we can go over some more. But for right now, this is what I think you need today. And we kind of do that. And first of all, and I don't mind, people apologize, but don't apologize for taking my time. That's what I'm here for. I have people do that all the time. I'm so sorry to take your time. It's like, that's what I'm here to do. And so I love doing it. I love educating and helping people know something they didn't know before. And so I say, definitely call as soon as you're diagnosed, and, just let us help you through that journey. It may just be you give us your name, address, phone number, and email. We put you on the mailing list. And when we have, again, I'll bring up the education forum just because it's in the forefront of my mind right now. we'll send you a postcard about the education forum so you can come if you're able and visit. If you can't, then maybe we can reconnect you to another resource. Like maybe you're in another state or another country that you can't come. We actually have online education forums as well. So we can send you that direction as well. And that's one that you and I have talked about before. We had last year, we kind of, because of the pandemic, we partnered with a local state, with Missouri, and we actually connected with them and were able to do our event together. So this year we are shooting for and planning for in person. So we're super excited about that and can't wait to finally get to see faces again.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you said was really important there about, and I completely agree, that nobody diagnosed with Parkinson's, newly diagnosed, should ever walk out of a physician's office feeling like they just got a death sentence. But it happens all the time.
It happens all the time. And to not know that they should go and get exercise, get started with exercise now. You know that. You being the PT, that's so important. Get involved with some sort of exercise, whether it's rock steady boxing or Tai Chi. Those are actually programs that we know work. The tango, if you're a dancer, the tango is a great dance for people with Parkinson's because you're walking backwards and you're working on your balance. And so there are specific things that are really good for people with Parkinson's. And once again, your local centers can point you in the right direction. Your local therapist, can definitely help with that too.
Absolutely. Seek out all the resources you can, and APDA can help with that specifically, and also potentially help connect you with resources locally for, exercise, therapy, other things like that. So there's a lot of different things, but I appreciate you highlighting all of those things for us today. We just have a little bit of time left, but I think you mentioned your contact information already. For those of you listening, I'll be putting this in the show notes so that you can get in touch with Jenny directly, but also with the national organization if you so choose. What's the best way to get in touch with you, Jenny? Again, just to reiterate that.
Sure. They can contact us at our phone number here at this center is 918-849-5419. That's my cell. You can also call our office is 918-747-3747. You can also email us at apdaok, that's American Parkinson Disease Association, Oklahoma. So it's apdaok at apdaparkinson, no S on the end of that, .org. And those are a couple of ways. If I can quickly mention, I've talked about it, the education forum, that's going to be happening on April 9th. It's going to be here in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. We're going to be getting out of the big cities. Moving out of the big cities is our theme. And so we had always been in downtown Tulsa. It's a little bit of a challenge. And so we've decided we're going to take it out to Broken Arrow, and the accessibility is amazing at Stony Creek Hotel and Conference Center. And so we're super excited about that. Michael will be there. He's going to be helping us out with one of our presentations. So we're excited about that. We also have Dr. Kloss and and we have Dr. Wang, who are both researchers, and Dr. Kloss is a local movement disorder specialist that are going to be speaking as well. Gail Bieber, who is a social worker and counselor here in town, will be talking, and a number of others that will be telling you more about. Mary Knoll, who is a wellness instructor. She's going to be talking too. So that's kind of a highlight of the ones we have set up. And we're super excited. It's going to be a great time. You can go to our website. The registration should be up no later than Monday, but it may be up sooner. So keep an eye out.
That sounds great. And just really briefly, earlier you mentioned the Midwest Parkinson's Congress, and is that coming up soon? Is that right?
Yeah, that's actually the Thursday before our event on the 9th. So theirs will be on the 7th. I think it's the 7th and 8th or something like that. It's called Midwest Parkinson Congress. It's put on by the St. Louis chapter. So if you're interested in that, you can also go to the apdaparkinson.org and look up St. Louis. And if you go to that, they'll have their information about their registration. And that's the online version. Right. So you should be able to attend that from anywhere. They have an amazing event as well.
That sounds great. Well, I really appreciate your time, Jenny, for being on with me today. And it's been fun to talk.
Be here. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been an honor to have you as a guest as well, and I appreciate you sharing and highlighting these resources, like I said before. Um, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks at the education forum. So that's about it for this episode. Everybody who's listening, I appreciate it, each and every one of you, for subscribing to the podcast, liking it, sharing it, leaving reviews, all the above. And a special shout out to our Patreon co-producers for helping us again. My name is Dr. Michael Hyland. I'm a physical therapist, and you've been listening to the Parkinson's Warrior podcast. I will catch you in the next episode. I hope each and every one of you have a wonderful day. Be blessed.